how to be happy anymore. That's all I knew was mommy and wifey. I was so eager to get back to my business. One part that I felt like was part of my identity, but I couldn't get back there. So all I knew was mommy and wifey, mommy and wifey. Like, how can I be anything else? And then by me going through that mental depression, the depression and anxiety, I actually was isolating myself. So not just because of the pandemic. Of course, I want to stay safe because of the pandemic, but I didn't even want to be around anybody. So now I'm not even socializing with my friends. So I was truly just mom and wife. That was it. And I did not want to be there. Like, I knew who I wanted to be, but I didn't have the mental or physical energy, the capacity to do anything else because I was just drowning.
You're listening to the First Class Life Show, hosted by Lindsey Vertner, a holistic personal development show for high-achieving leaders who desire to maximize their impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. So grab a drink, grab your notebook, and let's get started. Hey, First Class family. Welcome back to another episode of the First Class Life Show. I am your host, Lindsey Vertner, and we have the lovely, gorgeous, phenomenal Dr. LaToya Wiggins with us. And listen, before we hop into the discussion, I need y'all to do a few things for me, okay? I need you to subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things because sharing is caring, and we have to spread awareness about this personal development show because we talk about the real tough topics, okay? We pull back the veils, we take off the mask, we do all the things and get down to the nitty gritty that it takes to be a leader, because all those tough things that we like to hide in secrecy comes up in how we show up or how we don't show up as leaders and our ability to impact the world. So I know that you are out there maximizing your impact and creating your first class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness, and you don't have time to wait. So we are grateful that you are here with us, and let's hop right into this discussion. Hey, Dr. LaToya, welcome to the First Class Life Show.
Hey, Lindsey, how are you?
I am good now that we are up and rolling, okay? So I don't know when we first met, but we have gotten to know each other over the past few years, and I know how phenomenal you are, but I need you to take off your mask, if you will, and share with the First Class family, like, who is Dr. LaToya really? Like, give us the good stuff, girl.
So again, my name is Dr. LaToya Wiggins, but please just call me LaToya because I just want to be down to earth with all of you out there. So we're taking the mask off, we're taking the titles off. But since you must know, I am a Doctor of Physical Therapy. I am a self-care strategist for Christian moms. I am a boy mom to 3 handsome young men. So shout out to all the boy moms out there. I'm about to have a 13-year-old, y'all, next month. I have a 6-year-old, and I'm about to have a 2-year-old. The terrible twos, y'all, so please pray for me. I am married. I've been married for 6 years. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised. And I'm just excited to be here with you all and just really just get down to the nitty gritty. I'm a mom, so this is my self-care time talking to you all. And that's my passion, helping other moms.
Now, you've mentioned that you are a mom quite a bit, so obviously that is a big part of your identity. And I want to just take a moment to speak to the moms that may be listening right now. And if you're not a mom, don't tune out, because there's definitely some info that I'm sure that you will be able to share with a mom that you know, because you know a lot of moms, even if you're not a mom. And so you mentioned, being a mom. Have you ever experienced that becoming your whole identity, like you lose yourself?
Yes, definitely. I felt like after the first child, I was pretty good. Then came the second one, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm starting to shift from who I felt like I was. So let me take it back. So when I had my first son, I was in the middle of physical therapy school. So I was still growing in that area. I became a physical therapist, a working mom while I had him. So I didn't really feel that identity shift until I got married and had my second child. So now it's like, okay, now I'm a wife and I'm a mom of two. Like part-time working physical therapy, and I just feel all over the place now. And then fast forward to me having my last son, it's like completely, okay, who am I now? Because I had my last son in the middle of the pandemic. So you already know that's a very busy time, right? I'm home. And mind you, the crazy part about the pandemic was I went from a full-time therapist to part-time so I could work on building my business as a self-care strategist. Literally the month before the pandemic hit is when I transitioned from full-time to part-time. Then the pandemic hit, so now everybody's home. So that really slowed me down. Fast forward a few months later, I got pregnant. And during my pregnancies, I'm always sick and miserable the entire time, unfortunately. And so after I had my last son, Caleb, it was just like, now what? Mm-hmm. It's like I didn't want to go back as a physical therapist. I wanted to continue to build my business as a self-care strategist, but I was so pretty much, I was depressed and anxious. And when I say anxious, like I didn't even know I had anxiety. I figured I was depressed. I didn't realize I had anxiety till I started seeing a therapist. And I started seeing the therapist because I just couldn't get a grip on life. I felt like I was just drowning day by day, waking up. Like as soon as I would open up my eyes, it's like, ugh. Like I was dreading the day as soon as I opened my eyes. And that's not how I wanted to feel, as a mother, as a wife, as a person. But I didn't know how to be happy anymore. That's all I knew was mommy and wifey. I was so eager to get back to my business. One part that I felt like was part of my identity, but I couldn't get back there. So all I knew was mommy and wifey, mommy and wifey. Like, how can I be anything else? And then by me going through that mental depression, the depression and anxiety, I actually was isolating myself. So not just because of the pandemic. Of course, I want to stay safe because of the pandemic, but I didn't even want to be around anybody. So now I'm not even socializing with my friends. So I was truly just mom and wife. That was it. And I did not want to be there. Like I knew who I wanted to be, but I didn't have the mental or physical energy, the capacity to do anything else because I was just drowning day by day.
Yeah. And a lot of times, mom or not, sometimes we can get so consumed in a title or in an identity that has been placed upon us. So maybe for some it's sister or brother, or maybe for other people it's supervisor at work. We can get so consumed in that identity and that role and that title that we do put our own selves, like the actual us that we wake up with, that we were born with and will die with, on the back burner. We can put those needs behind the needs of everyone else. And so if for some reason that title, that role, that position were taken away, then you have this whole nervous mental breakdown because it's like, oh no, what do I do with that? Without that, I've been so consumed in it for so long that I don't even know how to function without it. So what would you say to the person that's listening right now that may be feeling like, well, before I ask that, first, let me say, what were the signs where you truly recognize like, wait, I am consumed in this so much that I'm losing myself?
The main thing, I was walking around always just grumpy, irritated. I just felt like a ticking time bomb just waiting to explode. As soon as I wake up, I'm mommy. Sometimes I'm being awakened to the sound of crying. And then I was breastfeeding, so it was like, I'm just mom all day long, number one, when he was a newborn and I was nursing. And then you're walking around cleaning up after everybody. It just seemed like everything just revolved around me. And then I did have to acknowledge when someone was trying to help me, I had to do things my way. Not that I really had to do things my way, but I'm sure a lot of you can relate. You feel like you had to do things your way or it's not the right way. So even with having support, I was just consumed because I had to have things my way. I don't know if it's just like wanting to have a sense of control, but in reality, I was losing control. So I had to really recognize, like, I'm waking up already irritated, sad, wanting to cry. Sometimes I would cry. And it was like, I just want to do something else besides just be a mom. Like, I want to get back to doing something I enjoy doing. And like the only time I was really leaving the house, which is to go to the gym, which was part of my self-care. But it was like, what else? And like you said, when I met you, that was before I had my last son. And I'm looking at people like you and everybody I was in my speaking programs with and my business programs and I'm like cheering y'all on. And it's like, I want to do that too, And it's like, I don't want to keep waiting, So sometimes I did have to recognize, maybe this is the season for me to wait. And when I say a season, not one of those long seasons. Okay, I'm gonna just have to wait till he's 5 or off to school. No, because I still need that part of me right now. That's something that would bring me joy. It brings me joy when I get to help other moms, with their self-care. But right now I'm the mom who needs to work on my own self-care. And that was one of the things also. I had to see what self-care looked like for me in that season of my life. So I can't go all in right now, but what's those baby steps that I can start doing right now? And then I needed the support. So that's what made me reach out to a therapist. And I also strengthened my relationship with God because that was one of the things I felt like I was slacking in. And the combination of those two things really helped me it really propelled me forward. So even right now, I'm still taking it easy, but now I do have peace and joy. I feel like I'm back in action. I'm not working like all around the clock, but at the same time, I don't want to either. I'm getting the best of everything right now. I feel like I'm doing things I enjoy. I get to nurture these kids. I get to nurture my marriage, but I feel like everything is in harmony now, and I didn't have that harmony, otherwise what some people like to say balance now.
Hey, I know it can be exhausting blazing the trail and creating a legacy. And you're at the point in your life where you desire peace and rest. You want to enjoy both the physical freedom and financial freedom to live life on your terms. You understand the importance of prioritizing your self-care. And you know that you're worthy of transformational experiences surrounded by other high-achieving, goal-oriented women just like you. That's why you deserve to be treated like VIP at the First Class Life Luxury Self-Care Retreat for Women. You deserve to show up and just be you. Away from the titles and roles that keep you busy from day to day. You deserve the luxury to fully unplug. It's time for you to embrace your first class life. Visit firstclassliferetreats.com to secure your VIP spot today because you deserve it. Yes, and what I heard in all of that is progress over perfection, because oftentimes as leaders, we want the whole roadmap. Like, okay, it needs to be perfect. That way I can really serve the people that I'm serving. Otherwise, if it's not perfect, I can't put it out. And it makes us stop in our actions and not do anything because it has to be perfect. It has to be just right. But we have to realize that perfect doesn't exist, right? And so progress over perfection, taking those little baby steps. So I definitely wanted to point that out, that you said, what can I do now? It doesn't have to look like this is the ultimate end goal, but I understand that I can't do that right now. And I'm sure the thought of trying to do it all was probably overwhelming, which would have only increased the amount of stress and overwhelm you were already feeling. So taking step by step. And it sounds like you already started to answer that original question I was going to ask, which is, what are some suggestions that you would give to someone who feels like they're losing themselves in their identity or title or role, whether it's mom or something else? You mentioned therapy. You mentioned, deepening your relationship with the Lord. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I would tell somebody who feels lost, stuck in a dark place, whatever you want to call it, just not being where you want to be, who you want to be. I really want you to really take some quiet time out, get alone. Like, even if you're a mom or a caregiver at some point where sometimes you feel like you can't do that, I don't care if it's car therapy, whatever. Take some time out to really assess yourself. Really, you can journal if you need to. A lot of times it's good to put things out on paper. What do I want my life to look like? And what can, like I said, what are the small steps I can start taking right now? Like you said, a lot of times we do have an end goal, but you can't always get to your end goal right away. A lot of times, if you think about it, sometimes the hole that you felt like you're in, it didn't just happen overnight. So you getting to where you want to be in life is not going to happen overnight. So just really reflect on, what do you want your life to look like? Your ideal life. What would truly bring you some peace and joy in this season of your life? Like I said, this season, because every season is going to look different. And a lot of times you don't know what it's going to look like when you get there. But what are those small things you can start doing now? Because we don't want to keep waiting till later. Waiting till later, you're going to get there. And then guess what? Something else is going to happen that's going to make you want to stay stuck. So what are those small steps that you can start taking now? And how can you get there? So maybe you need to see a therapist. Maybe it's a health goal, like a fitness goal. Maybe you need to see a personal trainer or a fitness coach, maybe a business coach, a speaking coach. There's so many different resources, so many different support people out there who can help us. So I would say, don't do it alone. Take that time to reflect yourself and then get the support that you need, whether it's, like I said, an expert in whatever area it is that you want to work on. And lean into the community. I really stress that too. Lean into community, whatever it is, whether you're surrounding yourself with other speakers like a Lindsey Vertner, or I mentioned I strengthened my relationship with God, surrounding myself with other Christian women who are either deep in their faith or could help me in different ways that, I was learning how to study the Bible in a way that I could understand it. Surrounding yourself with like-minded, like-hearted people, that really will help you, stay accountable, get the support that you need. And I had those people like, she over there working on X, Y, Z, but I don't really care. No, you want those people in your corner who are going to give you that nice, loving kick in the butt when you need it.
Yes. Now, we've mentioned therapy quite a few times already.
Yeah.
Tell us what that journey was like, because I know specifically in the Black community, you keep your business in your house. You don't go blabbing to nobody. Every now and then it was okay to blab to the pastor, but right. Nobody else. Your business is your business, right? And so I'm happy that therapy has improved over the years, but it's still not where it needs to be. And I know in other communities as well, they have their stigmas around therapy as well, but the Black community specifically, it was the biggest stigma. And so for you, what were your thoughts up on therapy prior to you actually going through your depression and actually seeking out a therapist? Like, were you always okay with it, or were you like, Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, I think growing up, I was, I don't want to say I was raised, but I guess just, being in the Black community, I'm predominantly around Black people. Like you said, it was like, we don't do that type of stuff. But as I got older, and I think especially by me being a healthcare professional, the therapy piece was a little bit easier. I would always recommend therapy, whether I was working with a patient and they're telling me something and it's like, sounds like, you might need to see a therapist. Have you ever considered that? Are you saying that? Friends, I would be quick to recommend a therapist, but I'm not going to lie, for me to get my own butt in therapy, because I don't want to tell you all my business, like you said, or feel like you're over there judging me. That was actually hard. So I actually started seeing the therapist, I want to say maybe in 2018 or 2019, for other reasons. Kind of similar reasons, but I didn't feel like I was in a dark place like I was this time. Like this time, it was like, oh yeah, I really need to be in here. But, and it was okay, but it was nothing. It was like, I just feel like I'm just talking to her. I don't really need to be here, but I'm here. But this time when I really felt like I am drowning and I don't know how to reached the surface, I had to like really convince myself to go. So the first time I went after I had my third son, I went and it's like, I already don't want to be here. And it was virtually. But anyway, it was like, I already didn't want to do it. And then the therapist's schedule was inconsistent. And then she canceled on me one time and it was like, yeah, I didn't want to do this anyway, so I stopped going. And I'm even thinking like, yeah, I became the self-care strategist after I had my second son. I know what to do. I just got to push myself more. But one of the things I didn't do, which I coached my moms on, was you need that support and accountability, right? And that's where I was, I needed my own kick in the butt. So I want to say 2 or 3 more months later, it was like, okay, you really need to see somebody, LaToya. So instead of trying to keep seeing the same person, I did try somebody else. And that's one of the things I want to tell people too, if you do something like therapy, and even with anything really, I don't care if it's your pastor or physician, you always go to another person, if you're not feeling the first one, whether it's their opinion or whatever, it's trial and error. You don't have to stay stuck with that person. So I did try another therapist and we did have a good relationship. So I stuck it out with her for several months until, I felt like I was in a good place. And she didn't actually officially discharge me because she ended up having her own personal issues, but I stuck it out this time and I felt comfortable. So it was really one of those things I realized, like, you just have to get more comfortable with the person. I feel like now that I've done it, it's really not that bad because I was always thinking like they might judge me, but it's really a place where it's like, no, they're just really trying to help you. They're not going to say, oh, LaToya, you shouldn't do that. It's more so just like, yeah, you're going to do X, Y, Z. So how are we going to do it? Or you were talking like this, you were feeling like this. This is what I want you to try, And so any Black person or anybody else out there who has any stigmas about therapy, you feel uncomfortable, just try it out. And like I said, if you're not feeling the first therapist, try another one. One thing I really like, they had something called Therapy for Black Girls. And I went on there and that's where I kind of searched, you can see the profile, you send different things about the person before you even reach out for a consult. Another resource I would say is I've used BetterHelp, and that's where I was doing the virtual therapy initially. And with that one, it's very easy to do trial and error. It's like you see this therapist, you're not feeling them, you can easily switch over. So it's so easy to test the therapist out these days.
Yes. Are you loving the First Class Live Show? Then join our private Patreon community. Not only will you help to support our ability to provide you with great content, but you can also get exclusive perks like bonus videos and resources, discounts, episode transcripts, and more. So what are you waiting for? Join today at patreon.com/First Class Life. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/First Class Life. And the internet and technology has made it a lot more accessible to find a therapist and work with a therapist. I know both of my therapists. Listen, I got 2 girls. Insurance took both of them. I said, well, hey, you're not going to make me choose. I like them both. So I'm going to just take turns. But neither of them are local. One of them is close enough where I could drive to, but then it's like, do I really want to drive an hour and a half, depending on which office she's in? The other one, if I don't feel like driving, then I can have the virtual option. And so I think it's very important to point out, like you mentioned, you weren't feeling the first one. So you had stopped going, but you were willing to try it again, which is very important because therapy is not a one size fits all. Like you might not mesh with your initial therapist, and that's okay. But I think where we have to make sure we point out that fine line between, is it you resisting? Are they being an effective, great therapist because they're pushing you and getting you out of your comfort zone? Or do you truly not mesh? And so do you have any tips on how to discern the difference? Because sometimes it's just not a right fit. And then other times it's just our resistance to therapy. And it's like, oh, you push me out of my comfort zone, so I don't like you. I'm going to quit seeing you. And that's the excuse that we use to not show up, especially if we didn't want to show up in the first place. So do you have any tips on discerning whenever, all right, it's time to try someone else versus they're just pushing me and it's really my resistance that makes me want to quit?
Yeah. I would say you just really have to take a look at yourself, have a chat with yourself, and really ask yourself, is it because they're telling you to do stuff that you don't want to do? Even outside of therapy, you could have, like your doctor, like if you go there and they're telling you have to lose weight and cut down on this and that, and you leave mad because they told you something that you don't like. That would be resistance, right? So it's the same thing with therapy. Are they telling you something and you just feel like, oh, they're judging you, or, like just ask yourself that, or, and there's different things too. Maybe it could be their mannerism. Some people, like, I've heard, some of my friends like, oh, I didn't like this therapist because, sometimes you get one that's like more bubbly and, they're bubbly, but they're professional. But then you have some that just, just, I don't know, brick wall, just like, oh, liven up some, so sometimes it could be personality. I would say it could even be certain techniques. So you could possibly be resistant to some techniques because, so for example, by me getting deeper into my spirituality, I know there's some therapists who have certain practices that I feel like go against my religion. So of course I would not want to, dibble and dabble with certain techniques or whatever. But other than that, it's like, and even with that piece, I will say you can even look up a, Christian therapist, or, like for me, I'm a Christian, but, whatever your religion is. So that's why I said profile them before, or, you can ask certain questions or let them know if it's certain techniques that you don't feel comfortable with. Even there's a technique called cognitive behavioral therapy. My therapist, this was something I was okay with, but she told me about it and like, oh, would you like to try that? So at least she's asking me, do I want to try this technique, after she's explained it and everything. Not like, this is what we're going to start doing, So I guess it's just really all about their approach also. And, like I said, if you feel like you're being forced to do something that you don't want to do. And just, and at the same time, don't be afraid to try something, as long as it doesn't go against, any religion type of things or whatever. I had a friend who told me something funny. This was the first therapist she didn't mesh with. And the lady had her doing something with her eyes. I can't explain it, but she like, it feels weird or whatever. And, so she did try, but it's like, yeah, I'm not feeling that. And it was some other things about the thing. Like, so she switched to somebody else and same thing. She switched to somebody else and she loves that therapist. So like I said, sometimes it could be you, sometimes it's not you, but just really, I guess really just have that chat with yourself and know why you don't care for this person. Maybe even chat it out with somebody else, like, yeah, I'm not feeling my therapist, blah, blah, blah. And they might even like, Lindsey, it sounds like you just don't want to do the work.
So true. I think that's important to point out because, if you can identify, okay, what do I prefer in a therapist, or what are things that I value in who I'm about to essentially share my life secrets with, right? Because I know for me, when I first went back to therapy the other year, whenever I was looking for someone, I had went through the different profiles, but I specifically wanted a Black therapist because I've spent a lot of my life in predominantly white spaces. I didn't want to have to like explain cultural nuances or cultural differences or things like that. And then also, I wanted a female Black therapist because I know that some of my past traumas are male centered. And so I didn't feel like I would be able to fully open up no matter how caring and trusting and giving the male figure was. Like outside of my older brother, there is really no male figure that I trust in that way. Well, I mean, I've gained trust in my dad and my husband, of course, but if it's like a therapist, like there is no other outside male figure that I really trust, where I feel like I would be able to share like all of me, because I've had so many traumas around like male situations there. And so a female Black therapist were my two qualifications. And then once I identified that, it was like, okay, well, do I want them closer in age or older? Like, there's pros and cons to each. But, you know, sometimes older people, although they are to be objective in their field of therapy, you know, you still have those biases or those stereotypes or things like that, or can be stuck in your ways as an older person. And so I was like, I think I kind of want someone that is a little bit closer in range. They don't have to be in the same decade, but, you know, like within the 20-ish year mark or something like that. And so I took those into consideration as I went on my search, and I was very fortunate. I understand how fortunate I was to be able to find. It took a little while because, you know, waiting lists and all of that stuff. And how I ended up with two is because the first one that I wanted, that was an hour drive, even though I didn't want to drive, she had a wait list. And then the other one also had a wait list, but then she had an opening. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I can start virtually with her until the one in person starts. But then like I scheduled that first appointment with her, and then the one in person was like, oh, we have an opening now. So then I was like, well, I'll just go to both and see which one I prefer. Which one do I think was better? And I ended up liking both of them. They helped me in different ways. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep seeing them until insurance makes me pick one or the other. They make me pick. So I just started going back and forth. Oh, yes. But therapy is important. And I also want to make sure that I point out that, you know, it's not for just when we have a problem. I think that was probably a big thing in the Black community specifically as well, is that, oh no, therapy is for crazy people. Therapy is for people that got issues. They got something wrong with them. And it's like, no, therapy can definitely be a preventative measure as well, because I see it all the time in working with high achieving leaders and working with moms. Like, you're going, and you think you're handling everything just fine until you're not. And then you wind up clinically depressed or clinically diagnosed with anxiety or panic attacks or all of these things. And so for you specifically, tell us a little bit about that journey, as far as, did you feel like you were managing all the things, and then the next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute, I think I'm actually depressed. Like, what was that moment when you realized, like, where maybe you went from, I'm okay, bloop, I'm not okay, because it sneaks up on us.
Now, say, when I was doing therapy back in, whenever I said 2018, 2019, I would say it was more like that, what you just mentioned, as far as you feel like you're managing it all, but then it's just starting to feel like you said, everything is kind of piling up, and it's like, yeah, I'm not really managing it well. But the most recent time, that time when I said I felt like I was drowning, it was just gradual. I wouldn't say it was sudden. So, for example, it got worse after I had my last son, but it was already kind of piling up a little bit. You know, so like I said, we're in the middle of the pandemic. The pandemic itself didn't make me depressed. Initially, I was like, I enjoy being by myself and not having to socialize initially, right? But once I became pregnant, I felt like that already started the spiral down, because I felt sick and, like I said, miserable all the time. You know, like you're sick. You don't. People will usually have cravings. I'm like, I don't want to eat. I feel nauseous, but then I need to eat. You know, like all those different things. You got your aches and pains. You're trying to manage two children. One being, at that time, he was 3 and very hyper, still very hyper to this day. You know, so it's like I'm already struggling to, you know, going back to that identity piece. I feel like I'm struggling to be a mom. At that time, I was still working in my business, but I can just feel my energy just depleting, where it's like between the mental piece and just being, you know, regular pregnancy issues. Like, I am tired, wiped out, you know. But then I had my son, and it just seemed like it was stress, you know, from day one while in the hospital. I'm having problems with breastfeeding. I had a C-section and came home still having issues with that, you know, healing. And like I said, we just that downward spiral from that. I feel like I was constantly going back forth to the bathroom. I mean, not the bathroom, to the doctors. I was going back and forth to the doctors with the breastfeeding issues, with the C-section incision issues, and then, you know, trying to get back to being me, but I felt like I never got back to being me. You know, it just always felt like it was something to do. Like, I got 3 kids now, and all of them home. I don't even get a break, you know, like, oh, you in school. No, you in school downstairs on the laptop, you know, so, you know, while we was in the pandemic. So I just felt like I was just constantly drowning, and then trying to get back to doing my wifely and mommy duties. And yeah, it was like, when do I have time for myself? And then the funny, not hee ha ha funny, but like the thing about it was, when I got that time to myself, it wasn't spent doing happy things. I was pretty much spending that time beating myself up. You know, like, I should be further along. I should be able to do this. This shouldn't be so hard. This person over here has 5 kids, and, you know, just naming everything, you know, I guess comparison, you know, and I'm struggling here. Like, why is it so hard? Some people enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. I'm not enjoying this, you know, just constantly beating myself up. And then with that attitude issue, you know, always walking around grumpy and irritated, frustrated. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to be this way. And they don't deserve this. You know, it's like you're exploding at those people you love the most. Like, this can't be life. You know, so yeah, that was a struggle. And like I said, it was just gradual, you know. This piece would happen. You feel like, oh, we're about to transition to another piece. But it was just like each transition was just like worse. Like, oh, the breastfeeding issues are better, but now just back to reality of just being a mom and wife stuck in the house all the time. Stressing myself up, trying to keep up with this house, trying to keep up with these kids, trying to make sure I'm pouring into them, making sure you're doing the quote unquote homeschooling thing. You know, one kid is doing virtual learning, but then you're trying to do learning activities with the other child. It's just, yeah, it was just one thing after another. And pretty much just overwhelming myself unnecessarily.
Looking for amazing products to help boost your first class lifestyle? Then head over to firstclasslifeshop.com, where you can treat yourself to personal development books and workbooks, lifestyle affirmation cards, adult coloring books, mugs, notebooks, hoodies, t-shirts, leggings, and more. All products were designed to help you master your mindset, walk in your purpose, and live your first class life, because you deserve it. So treat yourself today at firstclasslifeshop.com. Again, that's firstclasslifeshop.com. So I noticed that you mentioned, you know, like, well, such and such has 5 kids. It shouldn't be this hard. And I definitely heard comparison is the enemy of joy. And that's so true. And what we often don't realize is that sometimes when we're looking at these other people that seemingly have what we're striving for, they are feeling the same way, but nobody wants to share, which is why I love the show, because we are more alike than we are different. But because nobody wants to share for fear of rejection, or for fear of judgment, or for fear of, you know, people looking at them differently, it's like, no, that only makes you more relatable. It makes you human. Like, that's life. And so it's important that we share these things and we talk about these things, because that's how we can heal. That's that community that you mentioned earlier. And so what would you say are like your top strategies for implementing self-care, as far as, you know, whenever you feel yourself just being consumed by all of the things? What are your top strategies specifically for those that are in a place where they feel like they don't have the time?
Yeah. So the thing with self-care is, a lot of times we don't have the time. We have to make the time. So I would say you have to be intentional. I would say that's like the real key thing. We have to be intentional about what we want and how to do it. So, okay, I'm stressed out. What can I do to relieve stress? So being intentional. Maybe I do have to be more intentional about waking up. I'm not saying you have to wake up a whole hour early, but maybe even just 10 minutes earlier before you start getting the kids together. Maybe being more intentional about going to bed on time. One thing when when my son was an infant, sometimes I would use my quote unquote self-care time, which wasn't even really self-care. I would like stay up late to watch TV, like, oh, I got some quiet time. But it actually will backfire because then I lost out on sleep. So you have to really be intentional about getting your self-care, but knowing exactly what it looks like for you. Is it actually helping you? Or is it hurting you? So is this 5 minutes or 10 minutes earlier, or hiding in the closet if you need to, just to get some quiet time? Be intentional about just creating that time. Like I said, we're not going to really always have the time, but we have to make the time. And so, yeah, I mentioned being intentional, and then the time piece. Not thinking that self-care has to be long. Like some people say self-care is Saturday, self-care is Sunday. So it's my day of self-care. And a lot of times self-care, when people say that, they're just thinking about getting their hair and nails done or whatever. What's going to bring you actually some peace and joy each and every day? So even if it is just 5 and 10 minutes in the morning, in the afternoon, before you pick up the kids, before you go to bed, that's self-care when you're thinking about doing something you enjoy doing. Maybe it's reading a book for a few minutes, spending that quiet time with God for a few minutes, getting on, a call with a good girlfriend. What does it look like for you? And so that takes me to the other thing, so being intentional, creating that time, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes. And then I lost my train of thought. What was I about to say? I was talking about the timepiece. What was the last part I just said? It was like it was right on the money with whatever I was saying. I was talking about talking on the phone with your girlfriends.
Uh-huh.
Dang, I forgot what I was about to say.
Make the time.
But yeah, so anyway, be intentional, create the time. Oh, I know what it was. Seeing what self-care looks like for you. So self-care for me is going to look different for, than what Lindsey wants to do for self-care. I have a good girlfriend. Sometimes when she's stressed out, I'm like, what is just one thing? If you could do just one thing this week, what would make you happy? And she said, I just want to be able to cook a good meal because she enjoys cooking. LaToya, I like to eat. I don't like to cook. I only cook.
Because cooking is a chore to me. Okay, that is unpaid labor. I'll eat all day, every day, but that's when you'll know I've made it, when I've hired a full-time chef. I've told my husband.
Right. So look, I don't
wait till our chef gets hired.
Right. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money or eat unhealthy, so that's why I cook. But the act of cooking does not bring me joy. Eating it does. But journaling, sometimes is a form of self-care for me. Some people like to journal every single day. I like to exercise. And when I say exercise, certain exercises feel like self-care for me, even though it does, any kind of form of exercise helps you to be healthy. Every exercise isn't enjoyable. So for me, I go to a studio called Soca Aerobics, and we dance to soca music. I love it. That's my self-care. And pretty much any of the other exercises with that group of ladies is actually fun. So even the hard ones, just being in that environment motivates me. It makes me feel good. So that's my form of self-care. I can convince some of my friends to come all day long. They're not going to come because they don't look at that self-care. So you have to really see what self-care looks like for you. Some people enjoy talking on the phone. I don't. We can text all day. I don't want to talk on the phone though. So you have to really see what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what's going to help you distress during the day, throughout the day. You can work, whether you work at home or even in the building, taking that time out to actually have a lunch break, sit quietly, actually enjoy your food instead of stuffing it down your throat. We have to find these different acts to actually enjoy ourselves. And like I said, all of that is self-care. Anything that makes you feel good, brings you some peace and joy, some calmness, that is self-care. Makes your body feel good, makes your mind feel good, makes your heart feel good. That's self-care. So find out what that looks like for you.
Yes. So important because like you mentioned, it is different for everyone. So you have to define what it looks like. And we have to prioritize it, be intentional, make the time, because like I always say, self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. And self-care is not selfish. If you don't prioritize self-care in your life, then you won't be around to serve all the people that you're serving, whether that's your family, your friends, your clients, your community, whomever. And so we have to make sure that we are prioritizing that. So Dr. LaToya, drop the doctor, keeping it Toya. Yeah.
Oh, you talk a lot too, just Toya.
So we getting casual up in here. So I think that this will be a great time to play a game that we call First Class Favorites. Are you down?
I guess so.
It's really easy. All you have to do is fill in the blank. I'm going to ask you what's your favorite this or that, and you fill in the blank.
Okay.
But you only have 10 seconds to answer.
Okay.
All right? So don't miss the buzzer. We're counting on you. So we'll start with something easy, kind of easy. What's your favorite emoji? You said you like texting.
Emoji's the one where it's like the eyes are going in and the tongue is hanging out.
I think I can picture it. It's like the carrots.
Yeah.
Got it. See, that wasn't hard, right? Easy peasy. What is your favorite cereal? Go.
I don't really eat cereal, but when I do, I'll say Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios?
Yeah.
That sounded very judging of me, didn't it?
I told you I don't even really eat it. Not the real extra sugary stuff that my kids eat.
But see, that would have been my go-to. Something nice and sugary that probably has no nutritional value at all. Let's see. What is your favorite book? Make sure you mention the title and author. Go.
Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Ooh, okay. Any particular part that's your favorite out of that? Like your biggest takeaway?
Here, so I can't really say now.
Listen, there's been many sleeps since I've read the last pages, right? So I understand. What is your favorite quote? Go.
My favorite quote, Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high.
Keeping it classy. What is your favorite place to travel specifically? Go.
Anywhere out the country, honestly. If there's a beach and water that I can see, the fishies and stuff running, in the water.
Gotta fix
Jamaica. Jamaica.
And just at the buzzer. Just at the buzzer. Okay. We'll let you have that one. What is your favorite snack or candy? Go.
Hot Cheetos.
Do you like to do like all the hot Cheeto recipes or the different versions of hot Cheetos? Like they're making like, have you seen the hot Cheeto chicken wings? Like fried chicken
I've seen that before, but no, I don't think I would want to try that type of stuff. That's
okay.
Let me keep it simple.
Classic, original. Got it. What is your favorite song, title, and artist? Go.
Uh-oh. Beyonce, favorite artist. Look, cuff it.
Cuff it by Beyonce. Got it. Sounds like you was just trying to throw something out there to beat the
Cuff it is definitely not my favorite song.
We won't tell the Beehive that. Let's see. What is your favorite activity to do to relax? Go.
To relax, Netflixing it up, binge watching something. I've been watching Ginny and Georgia recently.
Just play like authentic Netflixing or Netflixing chilling.
I was gonna say to chill, but some people automatically think the other thing. But just Netflixing and chilling in my bed, relaxing.
Got it. All right.
The other two, you're not really watching anything.
What is your favorite drink? Can't say water. Go.
Sangria.
Oh, do you have a favorite brand?
Nope. It's just sangria. Go to the
Any
restaurant. Y'all got sangria?
Got it. Well, thank you for playing our first class favorite things list. And listen, first class family, make sure that you join our private Patreon community because you will have access to our first class favorite things. And that is our reading list, our song playlist, where we like to travel because we're cultured peoples, right? And because we prioritize self-care when we're creating our first class life, our favorite relaxing activities to do. So if you ever have a brain funk, you can just pull up the list and see, but you got to make sure you're a member of the private Patreon family, okay? And there's also lots of other bonus resources like bonus videos where you can get some extra gems for our phenomenal guests and other resources as well. So click the button, join our Patreon, and let's get back into the discussions. Now, listen. If you are new to First Class Life, let me share with you that First Class Life is actually an acronym that stands for all of the different characteristics and skills that you want to embody into your lifestyle. Not something that you just do here and there. The more, the merrier, okay? It's about showing up authentically and boldly as who you are, flaws and all, okay? So if you want to find out what that acronym stands for, First Class Life, you can do one of two things. You can either go to the very first episode and I break down each of the key factors, or you can head to firstclasslifeshop.com where you can buy the book, First Class Life, 10 Key Factors to Create a Life Full of Purpose, Fulfillment, and Happiness. Meanwhile, we're going to ask the lovely LaToya, which key factor of First Class Life do you resonate with the most?
Say self-care. What I've been talking about, right?
I don't think we need to ask why. I think we got the gist of it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why is self-care so important? Like, if you had 60 seconds to explain to the world why is self-care so important, what would you say?
I feel like self-care really helps you to do everything else that will allow you to have that first class life. You know, self-care for me is all about nourishing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, like even financially, anything that's going to help take care of you, that's self-care. So I feel like when you focus on self-care, taking care of yourself, you know, you start taking action to care for yourself in all those many different ways, then everything in first class life is just going to line up right, you know, line up well. You'll be intentional and other acronyms.
Now tell us, how do you impact the world as a leader today?
So I impact, look, going into self-care, I impact the world today by serving moms and helping them to prioritize their self-care. That's why I say I'm all about self-care. So really impacting moms, especially women of faith, to prioritize that self-care, being intentional about it. Showing them how to nourish themselves mentally, physically, and spiritually, helping them to be nourished, renewed, and rejuvenated with biblical principles that bring peace instead of self-pity. I feel like that's the impact. That's my impact on the world. And when we're talking about that identity piece, that goes back to my God-given purpose. I'm serving not just as mom and wife, but I am helping other moms to take care of themselves so they can actually do what they were purposed to do, you know, be the mom and woman that God created them to be. So then they get to go out into the world serving their purpose because they are taking good care of themselves. And like you said, we're able to give the best of ourselves instead of that depleted version. So I really feel like that's my purpose. That is the impact that I'm making on the world.
Yes, and you have something to share with the first class family, don't you?
Oh, yes. So if you need support with being intentional about self-care, prioritizing self-care, you don't even know what self-care looks like for you, how to make time for it, like we were talking about, I need you to download my free gift to you, the Busy Christian Mom Self-Care Workbook. It's going to show you how to Actually, it's going to help you to reflect first on what's not going so well and have you take some action steps on how to start nourishing yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. We even talk about time management in that, how to de-stress, how to relax, how to be physically well, or physically healthy, I should say. So download that free resource. It is at bit.ly/Nourished Mom Workbook. Okay, Nourished Mom Workbook.
Yes, and we will have that right over there in the show notes so you can click on it and make sure you get that, okay? Because she said free, complimentary, free 99, no charge, okay? So you don't have any excuses. Now, let us know where we can find you on these internet streets.
You can find me at She is a Nourished Mom. See everything? She is a Nourished Mom. That's all me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have my new podcast out. She is a Nourished Mom. So check me out on all of those platforms.
Yes, thank you for sharing and dropping some gems with us here at the First Class Life Studios. And thank you, First Class family, for tuning in for yet again another episode of the First Class Life Show. Continue going out there, maximizing your impact and creating your first class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But please be sure to subscribe to the First Class Life Show. And don't forget to rate, leave a review, and join our private community so that we can continue to provide you with great personal development conversations to help you maximize your impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. You deserve it.